what the I think if your therapist ever says this to you, run away. That's super mean. Okay, hi everybody. Thanks for coming back if you've been here before, or hi, welcome if you're new. My name's Mickey. I'm a therapist and we talk about therapy things on this channel. Today, we're doing a little bit of a throwback. If you've been here for a long time, you will know that I started a lot on this channel a long time ago doing like therapist react style videos where we would talk about like shitty advice on Instagram or like therapist to show or TikTok to show your therapist. And people in the Discord, shout out to our patrons, by the way. If you want to get access to the Discord, you can join the Patreon. Link is in the description. They tagged me in a bunch of stuff and they want me to do another therapist reacts video. So we're taking it back in time to talk about that today. Before we get into our first video, by the way, shout out to Parade for sponsoring this video. I have some really fun and exciting stuff to show you later, so stay tuned for that. Okay, let's talk about this video. This says therapist tip when a child asks you to keep a secret.
They say before they disclose, I want to tell you something, but you have to promise not to tell anyone. What I want you to do is say, you can tell me anything, and no matter what you tell me, I'm going to make sure that you are safe, that we are safe, that everybody in the situation is safe.
I don't like that.
You're not saying, I'm not going to tell anyone, but you are reassuring what the fear is underneath that.
That's
underneath
so
that
shady,
fear is
though.
someone will get hurt.
Okay, hold on. I had thoughts about this. Listen, this is no shade to this therapist in particular. I want to be super clear from the jump. I don't work with fucking kids. This is not my bag. And so I am usually going to defer to somebody else's expertise. And there are lots of really valid ways to work with kids that are going to be different, right? However, I do disagree with this, like, you can tell me anything and I'm going to make sure that you're safe, because that's not setting a clear boundary and like expectation. A lot of the problem that folks express with therapists around like the issue of trust and confidentiality is feeling like their therapist wasn't fully transparent with them. This is why, like, for my own practice, when I sit down with a new client, one of the very first things that I tell them is that confidentiality means that everything that we talk about here stays here. I don't disclose that information to anyone, with a few exceptions. There are things that I am legally and ethically mandated to share. That doesn't mean that I'm going to like put your dirty laundry out in the street, or that I'm going to go running to the authorities at the very first opportunity I have. However, there is red tape that I have to work within, and it's for your safety. So here is specifically what those confines are. We're not going to get into that. I've talked about that ad nauseum on the channel. I'll put some videos up here if you want to watch that. But I don't agree with this, like, I am going to keep you safe, because I'm trying to reassure this fear, because it just feels shady. It feels like we're not being clear and upfront, and especially with little kids. To me, this just feels like trying to say, or like trying to skirt your way out of like, well, I didn't say that I wouldn't tell anybody. I just didn't like mention it, basically. Like, that's not really a trust building behavior in my opinion. And I think especially as a clinician, we should be modeling like direct communication, clear boundaries, and also allowing people to make conscientious decisions, right? Informed consent means people should actually know what they're consenting to when they agree to partake in services with us. So just like, generally speaking, don't love this. If your therapist is shady with you about what they will or will not tell other people, please feel free to put your foot down and be like, no, we're not talking about anything until I get a clear explanation from you about what necessitates involvement from a third party or an authority, or, you know, like a safety institution and things like that. Like, I need to know, because that's your right to know. You're fucking allowed. Okay, before we talk about the next video, I need to talk to you about Parade, because I am genuinely, unironically a customer of Parade for like years now. So when they reached out to me about doing a partnership, I was like, immediately yes. I don't care about any of the details. Immediately yes. I want to talk to my audience about Parade. For those of you who don't know, Parade is a female-owned company that has a sustainability focus. They're community focused. They're also inclusive and body positive. There are like people like me on the website modeling the underwear. So it's a place that I feel very represented and included. But also, for those of you who don't know, up until recently, I had gigantic yitties, like big giant boobies that did not fit in anything. But you know what they did fit in? Parade. So even pre-reduction, I was buying bras and underwear from Parade all of the time, because they were comfortable and breathable, but they also made me feel so sexy and confident. So after I got a reduction, I was like, immediately, I know exactly where I'm shopping. I'm definitely getting some new stuff from Parade. Okay, let me show you the bra that I'm wearing. I can't exactly show you the whole thing because that's inappropriate, but one of my favorite things is that the mesh and the elastic is so soft and smooth and breathable. This is probably my favorite thing that I've got from them, because it's effortless and easy, and it's one of those bras that you like forget that you're wearing while you're wearing it, but then you take all your clothes off at the end of the day and you're like, oh, okay, look at me. Hopefully by now you guys know that I am also fiercely inclusive. And the other thing about Parade that I absolutely love is that they sell sizes up to 5X on their website, and they also have sizes in the bras and bralettes that are specifically to be inclusive for larger busted people. So Parade definitely has your back on that one. Okay, if it's not clear already, I absolutely adore Parade, and I'm so excited because they gave me a discount code to share with all of you guys. So if you want to get 40% off site-wide, you can use my code Mickey40. therapy, definitely go parade some love for showing me some love, and also show yourself some love with some of their amazing and incredible and really comfortable underwear and bras. Let me know if you bought something and what you bought, and how much you love it. Thank you again to Parade for sponsoring this week's video. Let's go ahead and hop back in. This one's a Reels. Oh no, not this woman. Oh no. Okay. I understand the point of what this woman is trying to do in the sense that like these are things that clients say that aren't true, right? It's meant to be like encouraging and empowering and uplifting, and like obviously I'm here for that. However, for what it's worth, I'm not personally aware of the situation surrounding Therapy Jessa, but I'm vaguely aware that there was like a kerfuffle regarding an inappropriate reaction or interaction rather between her and people on live streams that could be construed as like a dual relationship or like tiptoeing into like trying to provide therapy over the internet, which like we've talked about this before on the channel. This is not therapy. This can't be therapy, especially this. We're memeing and shit posting right now. This is definitely not fucking therapy. There are links in the description if you want to go find a therapist of your very own, but this is not that. And that's a very important boundary, not only for your safety, but also for my safety and my license, right? So when people tiptoe into that, like it's really not my favorite. I don't know to what degree this person has like made amends for that or what have you, but I just, you know, whatever. That said, I think it's fair to say that like sometimes clients misunderstand things about their own trauma or their own history, especially the idea of like, oh, I deserve to be treated that way, right? This is a common belief of people, especially people who have suffered or are currently working through PTSD or CPTSD. And so like, to be clear, I don't disagree with that, right? That like you never deserve being abused or being treated poorly. It can always very much get better. You know, that's a common defense mechanism, right? I think for what it's worth though, people oftentimes say these things because we don't really know what to say, right? Or like we're at the beginning stages of our learning, and that's like very okay. You know, the whole reason that I make content like this is because I want to make therapy feel approachable and accessible and like a little bit less scary to folks, because personally I believe very strongly that therapy has the opportunity to make a really positive impact in a whole bunch of fucking people's lives. And so like from that realm, I get it, but like whatever. You guys know what I'm saying. Let's watch the next video.
Who's she? Nobody important. Nobody important. Blimey, that's amazing. Do you know, in 900 years of time and space, I've never met anyone who wasn't important before.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think this happens a fair amount in therapy. Oftentimes when we are deeply emotionally affected by someone, therapy is a place where we end up talking about that person, especially if we have a fear of being judged or perceived by our loved ones. Therapy can kind of serve the purpose of giving us an outlet to talk about that person that maybe we're a little insecure or uncomfortable bringing up in other conversations. And for what it's worth, I think it's important to destigmatize this, right? Like when we were wounded by someone, when we struggled with something, or like especially somebody that we had a problematic or contentious relationship with, it makes sense that they're going to be on your mind. Personally, I just am a strong advocate of like removing the phrase, just get over it from our vocabulary. I think people are going to take the exact amount of time and space that they need to work through stuff, and that's totally fine, you know? For what it's worth, therapists do often clock this though, when somebody does this where they say like, you know, oh, I'm really upset about this, or this person, you know, sucks or whatever, but I don't really care, right? Like, it doesn't bother me, or, you know, like that kind of thing, like we talked about in that first TikTok, or Reels rather, that like, this is a thing that therapists clock. But in my opinion, the thing that separates a good therapist from, you know, maybe an inexperienced or a new therapist is the way in which we go about bringing this up, right? Just directly confronting your client, I suppose, serves a purpose sometimes, but oftentimes the work is in sort of gently bringing an awareness to this of like, oh, you know, like in my notes, I noticed that we talked about this person last time. I'm wondering if there's something about this person that feels particularly important to discuss, or like, you know, it seems like this person's on your mind a lot. Like, let's talk about that. Like, what's going on there? You know, I think again, the way that we bring it up, especially in a way that's like hopefully just being gentle and like sort of gradually building awareness, especially if we're allowing our client to come to that awareness on their own. Usually that's when people are making the most impactful work, as opposed to like, you know, finger pointing. Yeah, that's entirely too real. The joke of like therapists hate your parents is so real. And obviously there's a whole world of nuance around this issue where like it's important to acknowledge and honor that people do the very best that they can with the circumstances that they've been given. And sometimes that means that parents are imperfect or like traumatizing to their kids. And we can honor their humanness and their, deservingness of like love and empathy while also honoring that this was inherently a fucked up thing to do to their kid. Obviously that's important, but like very much so. Your therapist likely has beef with your mom or dad, especially if a lot of your current mental health issues are because of your parents, and not because we're like angry at them necessarily, so much as we are almost like protective of our clients, right? Obviously, it's important that we maintain healthy boundaries with our clients. To be clear, as much as sometimes we want to be, we can't be your friends. That's just not appropriate. It's not allowed. But we do care very much about our clients. And so it's hard to like learn about awful things that people have done to your clients because you're like, I believe so much in your like deservingness and your wonderfulness, and I just want to see you fucking win, man. And so it like just sticks in our craw sometimes when we learn about the things that people have done to you. And so like this is very much true. I can personally vouch for that. Ooh, bless up. Thank you for that. Ew, yeah. Oh, wow. Okay, good. Listen, people are going to land in different places about CBT, and I think especially for new therapists, particularly analytical therapists or people with a very like type A personality, CBT is a wonderful intervention. It is an evidence-based practice, and it can very much be helpful to a lot of people. However, personally, for me, it's not my fucking cup of tea. And I think it also tends to get leaned on a lot as like a way to just think your way out of it. And like, that's not how fucking emotions work, right? Especially when we're talking about complex trauma, when we're talking about somatic issues, when we're talking about neurodivergency, just simply changing the way that you think about it is not a magic button, and people can kind of get lost in this. For what it's worth, if your therapist brings this up with you and it's not really working for you, please feel free to say that. I think with any advice also, the reason that there are so many different therapy modalities is because, imagine that, people are very different and sometimes require different things, right? If I'm a very amorphous type B or type C kind of person who's like flighty and ethereal and just like really in my feelings, or like, feel strongly drawn to like somatic experiencing, for example, trying to use a CBT intervention with me is probably not going to be very helpful. And this is why there are so many different modalities. So if something that your therapist does just doesn't resonate with you, please feel free to be like, hi, listen, doesn't resonate with me. Let's try something else. And the work for your therapist is either to then pull something else out of their therapist tool belt, or to say, awesome, thank you so much for bringing that up. I'm glad that you didn't just sit through several sessions of this not working for you. However, that's not in my skill set. So what I'm going to do is provide you with some contact information for like, ABCD person for you to go work with this person, because I think that would be a better fit for you, right? It's never appropriate for a therapist to just be like, we're doing it this way. You're doing it wrong. Try harder. That sucks. That's not okay. Everybody is entitled to specific evidence-based treatment that vibes with them specifically. That's the whole point. And that's also why, for what it's worth, I can't therapize people over the internet, because it's a very unique and specific and personal and intimate process. Okay, so the second thing is you're not allowed to call yourself stupid here. I know that people will land in different places with this. And listen, I'm not here to be like, I'm the therapy lady and everyone should do it my way, because like, that sucks. However, I think there is a lot of value in allowing clients to speak freely, right? While on one hand, there is value and importance with being aware of how we speak to and about ourselves, there's also value and importance in being able to give ourselves space to just say what's on our mind, right? Especially for authentic emotional expression and processing. When we police words as clinicians, it can cause our clients to get lost, right? A, because it can bring up defensiveness of feeling like, why are you critiquing me? But B, because then our client is thinking about what words they're using so as to not upset you, rather than thinking about how they feel. It distances themselves from their emotions and their bodies and what's actually going on, which is not helpful, right? If we're trying to process something, I want you to be processing it in your body in real time, not to be thinking about the word police thing that I'm doing. And so generally, I think this is helpful advice. Okay, the other thing is you have to forgive the person who hurt you. Listen, this is a controversial issue. I personally I agree with this take. I really don't like the idea of mandating forgiveness as a necessary step in moving on, because first of all, forgiveness is supposed to be for us, right? It's supposed to be something that if we choose to give it, it should be healing for us. And I think mandating it can oftentimes, first of all, bring up pathological demand avoidance, but second of all, serve the purpose of creating an adversarial relationship between client and therapist rather than creating like a unified front here. If your client doesn't want to forgive somebody, then they don't, right? Then fucking don't. Like, that's fine. I think it's also worth noting that, like, while there is research to suggest that the process of forgiveness can be helpful in terms of healing and, like, ultimately putting a trauma behind us, again, mandating that is not necessarily A, realistic, or B, actually helpful, because the truth is that going to therapy is not to maximize your efficiency and become the best version of yourself. That's not real. That's not how therapy works. Like, that's never a realistic expectation for anybody. Nobody can win. There's no final boss battle in therapy because we're people, because things are going to come up, because shit's going to change, because we'll encounter a new trauma or an old trauma will get brought back up. So, like, if your client is just not in a place to forgive someone, then they're not, right? And like, we can talk about that. We can process some emotion around that. We can express some emotion around that. And like, hopefully get you to a place where you're feeling less held captive by whatever feelings you have about that person. But ultimately, if you're just not there yet, you're not there yet. Or, you know, if you never get there at all, in my opinion, that's like a big sort of like, okay, like, oh, well, I think that's fine. Okay, and then I'm really disappointed in you. Literally, what the fuck? I think if your therapist ever says this to you, fucking run away. That's super fucking mean. I never in a million years would imagine leveraging my relationship in the therapeutic relationship to try to tell my client that I'm disappointed in them, because that's not helpful, right? Oftentimes when folks are in therapy, I would say there's a solid 95% chance that they've encountered shaming language or behavior from somebody else in their life along the way that's either caused them to feel bad or has impacted their sense of self, their self-esteem, their self-efficacy in some kind of meaningful way. So you becoming that person to say, ew, fucking gross, that's not helpful, right? And also, even if you are disappointed in your client, if I was like a supervisor in that situation, I would encourage whoever felt disappointed in their client to do some introspection about, like, are you projecting your own stuff on them? Are you tying your own feelings about your efficacy as a therapist onto your client's success? And if so, do we need to take steps back? Do we need to do some processing of our own stuff so that we're not projecting our shit onto our clients? But on top of that, using this language of like, I'm disappointed in you, or like communicating a judgment can also cause clients to get stuck in this fallacy of like, your work will be done when your therapist or some other invisible authority body approves of you. That's not the goal. Therapy is supposed to be something that we do for ourselves to also place that empowerment back in our own hands, right? We're supposed to be a person who feels settled, confident, empowered, safe with ourselves, and that we get to decide, right? That like, I'm fucking worthy. I say that I'm enough. I say that I'm lovable. I don't get to say, or I'm not going to say I'm lovable because so-and-so said I am. No, I'm just lovable because I am, because I really believe that about myself, not because other people have given me permission to. So I just disagree with positioning ourselves in this place of authority to be doling out whether someone's worthy of approval or not. Because like, first of all, yuck. But second of all, that's actually counterintuitive to the work that clients are oftentimes trying to do. Okay, we're going to talk about some memes. In here, this one says me, or my therapist laughs at a joke I said, me to myself. This is great. I'm going to get a good grade in therapy, something that is both normal to want and possible to achieve. Listen, as a former Gold Star high achieving student, I fully resonate with this, but also it's important that we unlearn this. Nobody's going to get an A or a good grade in therapy. It's not helpful. It's not good. I just want to encourage people to distance themselves from that belief because, again, the work is about ourselves. I just went on a whole rant about it. The great part about the holidays is that you get to refresh on everything that you forgot to bring up in therapy. Listen, I've said it before and I'll say it again. The holidays and wintertime are the two times of year, like I suppose like one long time of year, that therapists get really busy. And this is because of seasonal depression and also because seeing your family oftentimes activates a whole bunch of trauma and unexpressed emotion and difficult family relationships and all of that kind of stuff. So if you're going through that, so much love to you. It's very real. It's very difficult. Be kind to yourself, because walking into your family of origin's home is sort of like walking into the lion's den for a lot of people. Okay, this meme says, therapist, do you want to live millennials? That's a very complicated question. You guys. No. Listen, I get it. Like, this is the complicated thing about being a therapist, is that on a personal level, I'm like, yes. But as a clinician, like, no, we can't. This is also why your therapist will probably likely not engage in jokes like this, because then we're like, wait, okay, let's have a quick conversation though. I need to screen for your safety. I do want to be clear before we move on though. Talking about desires to not exist anymore. This is a thing, right? This is a thing that happens. This is a somewhat common part of mental illness generally. And so please know that you can talk to your therapist about this. Oftentimes the perception is that you're going to get immediately 5150'd, involuntarily committed if you talk about anything in that arena. And while some therapists do very much take that tack, I don't want to vouch for everybody because I can't, especially for me as a clinician. This is another one of the disclaimers that I give my clients at the top, which is that we can talk about those things, and it's important that we're talking about those things if they're coming up for you. And I want you to know that I reserve that course of action as like I literally have no other options to keep you safe choice, right? That's the like breaking the glass in case of emergency kind of button. And it's not something that ideally we're reaching for as like I as a clinician feel nervous. And so therefore I'm doing things, making decisions about your care without your consent, because ultimately that's what it is. And it sucks, right? That said, obviously therapists have to ask these questions because we care and we want you to be safe. We want you to be alive. And so that's like a necessary part of treatment sometimes. Let's talk about one more thing because this video is getting really long. Let's see here. Therapists getting ready for work this week. Clients who just spent the holidays with their families. Here it comes. Yes, very much that. That's like such a real thing. Therapist, can we unpack that together? Me, no. I spent several decades packing it up nice and neat. This is super real. Again, as a person, I relate to this, but also as a therapist, that's the point. Right? Like I often, in a joking way, obviously, with clients, when this gets brought up, right? They're like, no, I don't want to talk about it. I'm like, great, awesome. See you next week. And like, obviously that's a joke. In no way am I actually ending sessions at that point, but it is sort of meant to draw attention to the fact that like, why are you here then, babe? Right? Like, I know that you do want to talk about it a little or you wouldn't be here. That said, the mark, I think, of like a well-established and, effective clinician is being able to be like, yes, absolutely. I totally get that. And like, if it were me, I wouldn't want to either. However, we do have to talk about it a little. So like, let's talk about some aspect of this that feels okay, right? We can start small. I always tell my clients they have carte blanche to tell me to fuck off at any time. So if at any point we tiptoe into sensitive territory and they're like, never mind, that's always allowed, So you can have that conversation with your therapist if you want and be like, hey, listen, I want to talk about this thing, but I'm afraid of it. And I have repressed it for my whole life. So I don't know that I really want to talk about it all that much. So can we have like a signal or a safe word or like an understanding that if at some point I'm like, I don't want to, that you'll respect that. Oftentimes having that boundary in place can make people feel a lot more comfortable to delve into things that we've intentionally been hiding from for like our whole lives. So there are so many memes. Shout out to everybody on our Discord. Again, if you want to join the Patreon, the link is in the description for that. Y'all are the funniest people, actually. Like, you're genuinely funnier than me. And I think it's actually a miracle that I ended up making a channel before you guys did, because I think you guys are funnier than I am. However, we are going to talk about the rest of these in another video probably, but I think we're going to call it here today because there's a lot. So if you like the video, you can subscribe to the channel. We do videos like this and we also do other educational stuff. So I'd love to have you say for that. And then you can share the video to help the channel grow and to help each other grow. Also, don't forget to show Parade some love, showing me some love because they're great. And I'll see you guys next Saturday. Okay, bye.